Welcome to the conversation, folks. Today, we're diving into Ethscriptions on Ethereum and how they stand up against Bitcoin Ordinals. Really an exciting development in digital collectibles.
I'm totally excited to dig into this. So we're talking about on-chain digital artifacts, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, Ethscriptions are essentially a way to create digital artifacts directly on the Ethereum blockchain. But what's interesting is that instead of using the traditional ERC 721 standard like NFTs, these artifacts are stored in the
Right?
transaction call data.
And by transaction call data, you mean the extra data attached to the transactions?
Yes, exactly. To put it simply, instead of using a dedicated contract to hold the NFT data, Ethscriptions embed a uniform resource identifier directly in the transaction data. It's like a completely different approach to on-chain storage.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, storing data this way isn't new. There was an experiment way back in 2016, but the Ethscription innovation really hit the scene after Bitcoin Ordinals were gaining some serious momentum.
So sort of a reaction to the buzz around Bitcoin ordinals?
Right, exactly. Bitcoin Ordinals, which quickly picked up over 13 million inscriptions, really set off a wave in the Bitcoin community. And then Ethscriptions came along on Ethereum on June 16th, 2023, with Tom Lehman at the helm, launching alongside Ethereum punks to showcase how digital collectibles could be rethought on Ethereum.
That's a neat twist, linking collectibles with transaction-level data storage. It sounds innovative, but also, how does it compare in cost and functionality to traditional ERC 721 NFTs?
Great question. There are two main differences here. Firstly, because Ethscriptions are stored directly in transaction call data, they have the potential to be cheaper compared to fully deploying an ERC 721 NFT contract, which involves more
I'm with
gas
you.
and smart contract logic. Secondly, Ethscriptions don't incorporate any smart contract logic, making them less composable than standard NFTs. While ERC 721 tokens can interact with other protocols and offer advanced features, Ethscriptions are more straightforward, a digital collectible without the add-on functionalities.
That makes sense, but would you say being less composable is necessarily a drawback? I mean, sometimes simplicity can be a strategic advantage, right?
Definitely a fair point. The
Yeah,
simplicity could actually be beneficial in terms of efficiency, though it might limit integration with other decentralized protocols. It's a bit of a trade-off: simplicity and potentially lower gas costs versus broader functionality.
I see. And then there's the process of creating an Ethscription. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So if you're looking to create an Ethscription, you go over to ethscriptions.com. From there, you click Create Ethscriptions and upload an image, up to 96 KI of data, mind you, from your computer. Then, you connect your Ethereum wallet, like MetaMask, and finally, you hit the Ethscribe button to sign the transaction, which then stamps your digital artifact on the blockchain.
Okay, so it's relatively straightforward. It reminds me a bit of minting regular NFTs, but with this emphasis on storing the data directly into transaction metadata.
Yes, exactly. The process is intentionally made user-friendly, even though it leverages a more bare-bones approach.
Right? And what about transferring these Ethscriptions? I assume that's a bit different too?
Yep, transferring an Ethscription isn't as plug-and-play as with an ERC 721. You'll have to execute a zero Ether transaction from your wallet to the recipient, manually including the Ethscription ID in the transaction's hex data field. It's a bit manual, but it certainly gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And this manual process emphasizes the experimental nature of Ethscriptions. While it might be a bit clunky compared to modern NFT marketplaces, it's also a bold exploration of alternative on-chain storage techniques.
Right. But I'm thinking, does the Ethereum blockchain stand to support this long term? I recall something about the Ethereum Purge update.
Oh, absolutely. That's a critical point. There's a proposal in the works, EIP 4444, part of the Ethereum Purge update intended to trim down transaction call data. That introduces a risk factor, because if call data storage is reduced or optimized, Ethscriptions might lose their longevity, potentially being pruned in future updates.
Yep. So in a way, the future of Ethscriptions is a bit of a gamble.
Exactly. It's a a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, you're getting a cheaper, straightforward way to store on-chain collectibles. On the other, there's uncertainty regarding how the upcoming changes might affect their permanence.
Right. And that's where the debate really heats up in the community, doesn't it? Whether this is a sustainable evolution of digital collectibles or just a temporary trend fueled by market liquidity.
Precisely. After the liquidity in NFTs and digital collectibles has been ebbing, some see Ethscriptions as a neat, short-term hack to spark new activity. Others are already challenging whether this innovation can hold up in the long run against, say, Bitcoin Ordinals. And that brings us to a key comparison point: Bitcoin Ordinals. Ordinals have taken the Bitcoin community by storm, inscribing data onto the Bitcoin blockchain. Ethscriptions are clearly inspired by that move, but they manifest on a different platform with different mechanics and trade-offs.
Absolutely. And it seems like each blockchain is carving its niche. With Ordinals, Bitcoin's limited scripting and focus on being a store of value may limit functionality, whereas Ethereum is more versatile, assuming Ethscriptions can navigate their potential data constraints.
Right, it's like comparing apples and oranges. Both offer intriguing ways to build on-chain artifacts, but their inherent blockchain characteristics drive very different user experiences and governance concerns. Now, let's consider a potential challenge. Some argue Ethscriptions might simply be a rehashed idea, and that their reliance on a fragile storage method could signal vulnerability, especially if the Ethereum Purge update drastically alters transaction call data.
That's a valid point. While innovation is critical, relying on a storage model that might be phased out could limit long-term adoption, right?
Exactly. And while early adoption has been promising, with over 140,000 Ethscriptions generated in just the first few days, the question really remains: will the Ethereum community rally around this to create a lasting narrative? Or will it just be a brief flash in the pan?
And maybe that's where a bit of skepticism is healthy. Crypto innovation thrives on both hype and rigorous testing of new models.
Absolutely. It's a balancing act between capturing user interest quickly and building a foundation robust enough to handle long-term changes to the underlying protocol.
Right.
Another interesting bit is the comparison to ERC-721 tokens. Unlike NFTs built on ERC-721, Ethscriptions don't support additional features like royalty tracking or on-chain interactions, which means they won't have the same ecosystem integration. But then again, that minimalism might offer a headache-free alternative for collectors who are more interested in pure digital art.
So collectors might choose Ethscriptions if they prefer a straightforward, maybe even more cost-effective artifact without all those bells and whistles.
Precisely. It's really a case of if you need smart contract interactions and full ecosystem functionality, ERC-721 is the way to go. But for those looking for, say, a quick and inexpensive way to create and trade digital artifacts, Ethscriptions could thrive if the underlying mechanics can adapt.
So wrapping up, it sounds like Ethscriptions are a fascinating, experimental twist in the evolving world of digital collectibles on Ethereum, especially when compared to the hype around Bitcoin Ordinals. It's innovation in real time, though not without its potential pitfalls.
That's right. It's an exciting time for blockchain innovation. Each cycle sees new challenges and inventive solutions. Whether Ethscriptions will stand the test of time or become a brief moment of excitement remains to be seen. But they definitely add another layer to the diverse world of crypto collectibles.
Absolutely. Thanks for the deep dive. This conversation really highlights how every innovation, even with its risks, pushes the crypto space forward.
Indeed, and that's what keeps the community buzzing. Till next time, keep questioning and exploring these groundbreaking ideas.